Hello, I'm Paul Mooney, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the cohesion philosophical stance. Um, Ultimately, I think we as a community are drawn together as a community of practice, practicing our work together, learning from each other, accepting that we have the possibility to reach our potential as a group and not as individuals. Well, I think we can really reach our potential as individuals when we work together as a group. So it's the joining of the individual and the collective. And I think we as a community, while we are at the moment based in South Africa, find ourselves on very similar journeys. So the kind of people who are in the community of practice on multiple types of corporate, entrepreneurial, spiritual journeys, and we find ourselves together in this community. And we have a number of common philosophies and beliefs which hold our community together, which makes us cohesive. So what are these things that we believe? I think first of all, we believe in the equality of potential of everybody that we work with. That doesn't mean that everybody has to have the same salary or the same car, but what we certainly believe is that everybody has the potential to reach their own potential. So we believe in that equality. I think the second thing that we see, that we believe in, is that ultimately we as human beings expand and contract, and the degree to which we are conscious of this expansion and contraction leads to better relationships with other human beings who are also expanding and contracting at different vibrational levels or frequencies. Ultimately, we believe energy as a process. So when we talk about energy to economics, we see the energy that people put into their leadership, that people put into their groups, that they put into their organizations, their families and communities as a process. And I think what we do as cohesionists is we help them to be clearer in that, because we guide them through dialogue. We help the individual to dialogue with themselves, with other individuals, and with the group, ultimately with the organization. And this is ultimately done through a centering process, helping individuals to find that center of gravity, which makes them coherent and allows them to work with people who may be coherent, or also people who may not be so coherent. Because I think what we're ultimately working with is helping people to change their thoughts, change their feelings, and when thoughts and feelings are changed, behavior also changes. We deeply believe in a community that nobody needs help. We do not try and fix, rescue, advise, or project on people. We work with people who voluntarily want to experience some change, and so we don't force our processes on anybody. We work with individual consciousness, we work with collective consciousness, and more increasingly what's going on in the collective unconscious. We believe in a balance between doing and being, and we see more and more often that when people are working from their sense of being, they are more elegantly able to achieve their own potential. And that means we're working with changing perceptions, tiny perceptions in moments where we're working with individuals and when we as cohesionists are working with ourselves. Ultimately, we believe that we are not problem solving. Well, we are, but what we first do is we are problem finding. We are trying to get to the bottom layer of the iceberg, what's actually going on in the organization, looking for the source of the problem instead of fixing things quickly, which often, as we all know, creates more problems. I think ultimately what we do is we help people shift from argument to dialogue, and that means we are helping to contain paradox, two things that seem diametrically opposed, but when you look underneath, they're actually very, very similar. In fact, they're the same thing. And working with ambiguity, helping leaders not to know, because when leaders know too quickly, when groups know too quickly, they often know the wrong thing, and they fix the wrong thing, and they work with the wrong thing. So what we do, what we believe is that we're working with changing the vibrational frequency of the individual and the vibrational frequency of the group, which ultimately shift the vibrational frequency of the organization. And that means when we are working, we are constantly looking for evidence of energy shift and evidence of economic shift. Because what we do is we create sustainable processes, which means that we hand over our knowledge to the people that we work with so that we can be in the system for a certain period of time, and then we leave when we move on to the next system, allowing those that have learned from our processes to continue doing those processes for themselves within the organization. What we often end up doing is helping to release past wounds from the individual, the group, the organization, working with history. And what I think we try also do is help to end the resistance to change. And we do that by shifting the energy around morality into the energy around harmony. So how is it possible for people to be right and wrong together and still maintain relationship and still serve the overall purpose of the organization, the overall purpose of the group? And I think this means that, first of all, it's an inward journey. And I think it's also a journey which looks at the mutuality of profit. So we're not afraid to talk about profit as an organization that works with energy and that works with economics. And I think we also are very aware that the system makes the rules. So we don't come in with a dogmatic approach to cohesion. We look at what's going on in the system. We realize that the system makes some rules. We ask, are these rules working? And we help people to break rules and, I suppose, to make new rules as they go along. And that means that we ultimately, I think, find people, groups and energies in the organizations which deny the business archetype. So if you don't want to be in this business, we really, I think, help you to make a graceful exit from the organization, because when you deny what the business is trying to be, your energy works against it, and that's when you end up with all the anti-task behavior, the presenteeism and all the negativity that we speak about in our processes. And that means we help people to change what is chosen, and we help people to change what is denied, which means that leaders and members of groups begin to work with what they formerly deny, and that can mainly be only done with listening. We believe in the cohesion community that all results begin with energy. We believe that tension is necessary because it's the key to holding the structure together, which means we help individuals to embrace negativity, and we help people to spot their attachment to adhesion. And an adhesion is something which must be stuck together with a policy or a framework or a system or a technology. And ultimately, I think we help cohesion to happen and maturity to happen simultaneously. And that means primarily we help people to stop changing other people. We help people to change themselves, and in that change, other people change in response to that. That means the work we do is dangerous, because we are helping people to stop what gives them energy. For some people, when they wake up and go into work in the morning, they want to argue, they want to fight, because we've been taught, largely by the Greeks, to argue about the 5%, even though we might agree about the 95%. And so we see vibrational energy as a kind of a radar. And when we see people vibrating on a fast vibrational level, they can spot things way in advance. They can move slowly to work with what's going to happen. And when we see people vibrating on a slow energy, they kind of go, what just happened? So we help people to face reality, which ultimately I think means facing the weirdness of what the system is saying. So we help people to be attuned to what's going on at the level of weirdness within the organization, because we help them to be present, and we help them to be stable. We do that by helping people to face their fears and shift the vibration level from one level to the next. And that means we help people to see that the organization is a secondary reality, The primary reality is the people who make up the organization, because without the organization, there is no secondary reality. And that means we help people to integrate task and process, because often the conflict within the organizations, because people who are task oriented fight with the people who are process oriented, and dialogue helps them to move more smoothly with each other. And that means we help common perceptions to emerge through dialogue. Conflict is also created when one perception meets an alternative perception. And so what we help is people to increase their awareness. And that means we help people to transcend vibrational frequencies, their own and others. I think cohesion as a process and a philosophy allows thought to be freed, because we rarely test the quality of our thought. We test the quality of our actions, but we rarely test the quality of our thought. And while we have a framework and a philosophy and a practice and a process, we are the first people to say we have no dogma, which I suppose, if it goes far enough, means we could potentially have a dogma of no dogma, but we work with ourselves, and that's why we have supervisors and a peer community to help us work on ourselves as we work with our clients. What we then try and help is the system to spot its unconscious inequality. And very often that is in a period and a process of silence and forgiveness. I think ultimately what we help individuals to do is to be a channel of cohesion. And we as a business, because we're a business, we're a practice, we have some ambitious intentions, and these ambitious intentions include that by the end of 2014 we'll have worked with maybe 1,000 people in the cohesion process. By the end of 2016 we'd like to have worked with about 5,000 people. By the end of 2020 we see the possibility for having worked with 50,000 people in a number of different countries and organizations. And we even are planning to the year 2035, when I'm not planning really to be here, but we would like by then to have worked with about 250,000 people. And we're not even counting the secondary effect of the impact of the people that we're working with. So we set ourselves up as cohesion with some ambitions around our philosophy, ambitions around our practice, and I think what I'm trying to share with you now is the things we believe in, the things that are dear to our hearts, that we feel that we can share to people who want to share this with us. Because we are very careful not to work with leaders who say, change them. We only really want to work with leaders who say, change me, and let's work with anybody else who wants to be changed. So thank you for listening.